Hello everybody, hope you guys are enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at Tropical Storm Cristobal, which was named a tropical storm yesterday, just a couple hours after I made my video. The National Hurricane Center upgraded this to a tropical storm, and we're going to see how much farther this is actually going to develop here. Now, yesterday again, it was a tropical depression as of when I was making that video. It was Tropical Depression 3. A couple hours later, they actually ended up upgrading this to a tropical storm, and that would actually make it the fastest time we've ever gotten to the letter C on our storm names here for the Atlantic. It's the fastest that we've ever gotten three named storms in the Atlantic, and officially this was named a tropical storm on the 2nd of June, and the earliest before we broke that record yesterday was the 5th of June. So it's definitely being a very, very active pattern, and it definitely looks like it's going to continue to be an active pattern. And in today's video, we're going to just kind of go over some of the updates with Tropical Storm Cristobal, and tomorrow I should have my graphic out for Tropical Storm Cristobal. If not, the day after, most likely I'll have that out. So here's the current National Weather Service page. We do have some excessive heat warnings for the southwest, where you have temperatures in the triple digits, as well as heat advisories for the north central coastal areas of California. And then we have for Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi some flood watches in effect, where you are actually having some pretty heavy downpours. And then also for northeastern Minnesota, we have a couple of wind advisories up. Other than that, it is a quiet day for the National Weather Service for the rest of the nation, pretty much. Now, here's where Tropical Storm Cristobal currently is. It's just north of the southern tip of Mexico there, and it's kind of moving inland. I believe it's just inland, recently moved inland, and it'll probably be moving a little bit further inland before it actually makes its loop around and into the Gulf of Mexico again, and that's going to head northward somewhere in between eastern Texas and about Mississippi. And a couple of these models want to bring it to about Alabama or Florida. We still have a lot of that to decipher, and that's actually part of the reason why I haven't made my forecast graphic for this just yet. But again, it should be coming out tomorrow or the day after. Now, here is where it currently is, the official surface plot, and again, it's just north of Mexico there, just into the Gulf of Mexico, but shortly, or maybe it already is on land by this point, and it's probably already on land, and then it's going to be making a little bit of a loop to the right here, and then it's going to kind of move back out to sea again. So here is currently the key messages for Tropical Storm Cristobal, and I'm just going to read them out really quickly. So number one, they say damaging and deadly flooding has already occurred in portions of Mexico and Central America. Cristobal is expected to produce additional extreme rainfall amounts through the end of the week. The heaviest additional rainfall is expected to be over far southern Mexico and portions of the Yucatan Peninsula, while also extending along the Pacific coast from Chiapas to Guatemala and El Salvador. This rainfall could cause widespread life-threatening flash floods and mudslides. Number two, even though Cristobal has made landfall, tropical storm conditions will continue along and near the coast of Mexico through to Thursday, especially over western Campeche, eastern Tabasco, and northern Chiapas states. Cristobal is forecast to re-emerge over the southern Gulf of Mexico Friday or Friday night and move northward over the central and northern Gulf of Mexico over the weekend. There's a risk of storm surge, heavy rainfall, and wind impacts beginning over the weekend along portions of the U.S. Gulf Coast from Texas to the Florida Panhandle. While it is too soon to determine the exact location, timing, and magnitude of these impacts, interest in these areas should monitor the progress of Cristobal and ensure they have their hurricane plan in place. So definitely, if you do live anywhere between about eastern Texas to about the Panhandle of Florida, make sure that you do have some of your hurricane supplies ready and that you have a plan in case this does make some sort of drastic change to the east or to the west, so that you guys are prepared in case this tropical storm does move your way. So here is the model guidance for this, and we do actually have most of the models bring it just along the Louisiana-Texas border to about the Mississippi-Alabama border, many of them making landfall with Louisiana there. Now, Here is your GEFS tracks, your GFS ensemble model tracks, and most of them, again, bring it to Louisiana. A couple of the GFS ensemble models want to actually make it loop back around again. That would cause a lot of additional rainfall because it's kind of stalling around. And the reason that would be happening, which we'll actually touch on a little bit later in the video, is because we're going to have this dome of high pressure to the north. That's actually why right now you're seeing this kind of just stall out to the south, because we actually have a ridge that's kind of keeping it suppressed further to the south. Now, as we start to get a little bit of breaking and that ridge kind of opens a little narrow pathway into Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama for this tropical storm to move up, it will make its way north. Now, these GFS ensemble models want to actually have this ridge come back into place. You have they want to build that high pressure again, making this kind of turn further to the south, and that would actually make a lot more rainfall over these areas. So here is the Canadian ensembles, the Canadian model ensembles, and a lot of these are a little bit further to the east, many of them making landfall with Louisiana or Mississippi, a couple of them for the panhandle of Florida and Alabama there. So here's the model intensity guidance. Now we have two models showing this as a category 1. One of them wants to bring it straight up to about 70 or 80 knots. I'm not quite sure if it's going to get that high. A lot of them bring it to at least a high-end tropical storm here, and we've already seen sustained wind speeds of about 50 knots, which is somewhere around about 58 miles per hour or so. So here is the flight path of the aircraft reconnaissance that they're doing, just to see how intense this storm really is. And they're starting out on the eastern side of this, and then they're kind of making their way through the eye of the storm to see where the strongest winds are. And here's what they actually found with that. They actually found some wind gusts that are only about 4 knots or so from hurricane intensity. So if this does go on to land, which it'll probably weaken by then, and then it'll move north into the Gulf of Mexico, potentially it strengthens just a little bit, and then you have those hurricane force wind speeds. But the strongest winds on the southern, on the kind of the central area of the storm, as you would expect. Now here is what here's the likelihood of seeing tropical storm force wind speeds. Anywhere in the greens, that's about 5 to 30% chance, 30 to about 60% chance in the yellow and gold, 60 to 70% chance in the orange, and then in the reds you have a 70 to 90% chance, and in the purple you're seeing about a 90 to 100% chance of seeing tropical storm force wind speeds. As you get further to the north, because it is farther out, that's why the chances are lower. That doesn't actually mean that the chances are lower, just means that they don't have enough certainty just yet to put out higher numbers. Now here's the chance of seeing 58 mile per hour wind speeds, 50 knots, and those are quite low for the areas into the Gulf of Mexico. But you see right where this tropical storm is currently, you actually have some 60 to 70% chances of seeing 58 mile per hour wind speeds from Tropical Storm Cristobal here. So here's the arrival time of these wind speeds, and it's going to start making landfall with potentially anywhere from Texas to about the Panhandle, Florida, between Sunday 8 a.m. and Sunday 8 p.m. is when you'll have those tropical storm force wind speeds. So anytime between about Sunday 8 a.m. and Sunday 8 p.m., and this is Central Time, Central Daylight Time, that's when you should expect your tropical storm force arrivals in terms of your wind speeds. Now here's your wind history with this, and you've had some tropical storm force wind speeds with this anywhere in that yellow area, and that also includes a little bit of the southern portion of Mexico, where actually on land you actually saw some tropical storm force wind speeds. Now here is the cone of uncertainty from the National Hurricane Center, and they are keeping this as a tropical storm until it moves inland. Then they see a tropical depression for about 1 day, and then as it starts to move further northward, they see it intensifying again to about a tropical storm, and then their cone of uncertainty goes from anywhere from eastern Texas, Louisiana, through about Mississippi, and then just touching Alabama there. Now Here's your total rainfall from the Weather Prediction Center, and this is your 7 day rainfall. Now, over here, as you get further to Alabama, Georgia, Florida, this is really from rainfalls that aren't really going to be because of the direct impact of this tropical storm. It's going to be more of persistent showers and thunderstorms throughout the next few days. So this area right here is really not because of this of tropical storm Cristobal. This area further to the west here is actually why you're seeing is actually where Tropical Storm Cristobal is going to be really impacting. And you see over those areas, you have about 2 to about 4 inches of expected rainfall from the Weather Prediction Center. So here is some of the ingredients you need for these hurricanes to really develop, and this is the amount of heat content in the ocean, and this really helps fuel these storms. And you see, we actually have quite a bit of heat content, especially as you get further to the south in the southern and southwestern Gulf of Mexico, right where the system is really developing. You have quite a bit of heat content, and that actually helps fuel these storms quite a bit. A little bit less as you get further to the north, but still a good deal of heat content in the ocean. Now, here is your sea surface temperature anomalies, and these are very, very important. And you see, this is as of May 27th. They haven't updated this just yet, but they do have some cooler waters a little bit farther to the north. But then you see, as you get farther to the southwestern part of the Gulf of Mexico, you have quite above average sea surface temperatures. So for most of its development, it should be in some favorable conditions. And what does that equate to in terms of your actual sea surface temperatures? Anywhere in those yellows, oranges, and reds, that's where you're above 26 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is right about the water temperatures that you need for some hurricane or tropical storm development, and that's really favorable conditions for it. You only have a little bit of areas where you have below 26 degree temperatures in Celsius or 20 or 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and this is as of May 27th, so it's already been 6 days since this is updated. I believe they update this every week, so we should have a new update by tomorrow, hopefully. But the ocean temperatures have probably warmed up just a little bit, and even these ocean temperatures are still between 25 and 26 degrees, very marginal there. So it's not the most favorable conditions further to the north, but still not too bad. But further to the south, you have 28, 29, 30 degrees Celsius temperatures. Just to give you an idea of that, 30 degrees Celsius is about 90 degrees or about or in the upper 80s. So it is going to be very, very warm here in the sea surface temperature department. So here are your chances of seeing tropical depression wind speeds 20 knots or greater, and you see they're pretty much 100% here. And this is the European ensemble model, a combination of a bunch of models, about 30 or 40 European ensemble models put together, and this is the percentage of them that show tropical depression wind speeds. And you see it's about 100%, even all the way as it gets to Louisiana. It's still about 85 to about 95% chance that you still have tropical storm force wind speeds, and then or this is tropical depression wind speeds. Tropical storm force wind speeds are right here, and you see we do have still some very good chances that you see some tropical storm force wind speeds right around anywhere from about 85 to about 95% there. Now here's your simulated infrared satellite here, and this is gonna show you how cold your cloud tops are forecasted to be, and the colder the cloud tops, the more that they're gonna rise and the more intense your system is gonna be. And you see for this would be Saturday the 6th and then Sunday the 7th, you start to see a little bit more rotation. You have a comma head system, kind of looks like a comma, and that's a really good signature of a very intense storm. And then by the 8th, Monday the 8th, the European model wants to bring this further into about Alabama and Mississippi for a landfall. Many other models want to actually bring it to Louisiana or Texas for a landfall, and we'll actually look at another model, the GFS model here, showing this is also the infrared satellite for the GFS, and the GFS wants to bring it to about Mississippi and Alabama, and then wants to curve it westward into Louisiana there. Now, I want to look at why this is happening and why Cristobal is actually kind of just staying further to the south into the southern Gulf of Mexico, and why it's not moving north already. Because if we didn't have this ridge of high pressure, which is indicated by this orange air mass here, and we're looking at a couple thousand feet up above our heads, and this is indicating where low pressures and high pressures are. The low pressures in the blues and the high pressures in the oranges and the reds there. So we have a high pressure in place over this system, and that's not going to allow Cristobal to make its way further and further to the north. Cristobal it cannot make its way further to the north until this high pressure actually moves out of the way. So we'll actually look over. This is as of right now basically what the setup is, and then over the next couple of days you start to see a high pressure out to the east and one out to the west as well. And as those start to spin around, that is actually going to make a bit of a southerly flow that will allow Cristobal to actually make landfall somewhere within the Gulf Coast. So that is definitely something very, very interesting to see. And then you see by that blue little blob there, that is Cristobal right there. That's an area of low pressure, and that moves further inland. And this model wants to bring it to Louisiana or Texas. And again, that's still what we're trying to figure out at that point. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you never miss a video when I do upload. Anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.